be talking about advancing mental health through legislation, through any means of government legislation, and what we as the public should expect from it. I encourage anyone to ask any questions that they would like to in our chat function below. Thank you so much for all of you for being here, and a special thank you to Honorable Yousuf alFakri, who's with us here right now. Sir Honorable alFakri, Member of Parliament of the Libyan Parliament, would you like to start off with an opening statement on your initiatives on mental health?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, sir, and thank you for all. And I would like to introduce myself. My name is Yousuf. I'm a member of Libyan Parliament and a member of Pan-African Parliament as well, and the Vice President of the Youth Caucus at the Pan-African Parliament. Regarding to the mental health in my country, you know that my country is facing a lot of problems regarding of the war, and until now, until those moments, we were still facing a problem with the youths who are encouraging with the fighting across the country. And you know that because we have two governments, one in the west and the other one in the east. So that division of the government, it caused that we face the problem with the mental health in my country. We have two hospitals, one in the east in Benghazi and the other one in the west in Tripoli. So because of the lack of the requirement to...
Thank you so much for giving us that background information. Keep in mind, I do apologize. My camera's over here, but I'm using a monitor, so I will not be looking at my camera directly. Well, thank you so much for that background information, sir. Could I ask you, with those barriers in mind, what kind of initiatives is the government, and what kind of initiatives are you trying to bring to the parliament in Libya in regards to mental health?
Yeah, you know that because of that we have two governments. In the parliament, we issued a lot of laws, a lot of regulations regarding the mental health. But because of we have two governments, we can't implement the regulations across the country.
So within the next few years, what are you hoping to achieve in the parliament?
Yeah, now you know that we are starting to make a Libyan dialogue to finalizing all the two government, and we issued one government. Maybe next 2 weeks we will, inshallah, have one government, and with this one government we can applying our regulations. We had. What I'm saying is that maybe after next weeks we will have one government, and with this one government we will starting with the regulations what we had issued before in our parliament with the parliament, and we looking for that we will have one minister health, and we will apply our regulation what we had issued before.
That sounds like an uphill battle. Thank you so much for sharing with that. And I'm gonna come back to you with some more questions later on into the discussion. Now, our second speaker, U.S. Senate candidate Ellison is here with us.
How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much.
I must say that is a great backdrop.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Honorable Yousuf alFakri had the opportunity to join us with an opening statement about his initiatives on mental health in his country, Libya. Would you like to have that same opportunity?
Yeah, so I got into this campaign with the idea of trying to make improvements in the United States, particularly in health. And so, as you may be well aware, that the United States does not have um, a universal healthcare system like the other 33 developed nations. And so, as a candidate running for the United States Senate, it is important for me to be able to push for a universal healthcare system that not only provides the necessary healthcare coverages for our physical needs, but also one that provides mental health coverage as well, because we have such a great issue in this country with poor mental health. We have a great deal of gun violence. A lot of times that gun violence has been the result of poor mental health, and especially coming out of a pandemic environment, people are very much depressed. They're very much aggravated and stressed out. And we want to do everything in our power to make sure that that these stressors are brought to a minimum so that people can begin to live the best quality of life. And I fundamentally believe that if you're not mentally healthy, then you're not going to be physically healthy, because it all starts in the mind. And we have to make sure that we are taking a holistic approach to overall health. And so mental health, as well as healthcare in general, is a big part of our campaign in the United States. And even my campaign manager is a mental health expert. And whenever we are on our team calls, we make sure that before we begin any meetings, that we look out for the health and well-being of our people. And so sometimes you'll see me on Twitter late at night, early in the morning, just checking on people, because I believe that more leaders in the United States should be concerned with people's health and well-being, their mental health. And so I'm trying to lead on that front, especially with the microphone that I've been given by running for the United States Senate. I think it's so important that we look at one another and begin to try to help any way that we can as it relates to mental health.
Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. I mean, there is a whole issue with people forgetting, even in countries where there is universal health care, people forgetting that mental health is a part of primary care. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and adding that to us. So I would also like to ask you, what are some specific goals that you're hoping to achieve in the United States Senate?
In the United States Senate, there are a lot of things because there are 55,000 different issues in the United States, and those 55,000 issues affect millions of people. I know that back in 1963, the United States passed the Equal Pay Act, which made it illegal for women to be paid less than men for the same work. Also in 1964, under the Civil Rights Act of Title VII, it also furthered the Equal Pay Act to make sure that women are being paid along with other people of color being paid with their white male counterparts. But, 2021, we are still dealing with inequality in pay, gender inequality. And so one of the things that I want to be able to do is to make sure that there are consequences for corporations and employers that are paying people unfairly, and make sure that they're taking care of their employees the right way. Because what happens is, a lot of times in America, women are the head of the household, and they are having to take care of their families with less money. And so that provides or creates a level of stress on families. I grew up in a situation just like that, and my mom was always stressed out, not having enough money to pay the bills, having to borrow. And what it did was it stressed her out so much that she ended up in the hospital. And when the doctor asked her, what was her stressors, and she said it was paying her bills. And he said basically that, when you're dead and gone, the bills will still be there. And so what I want to be able to do is to make sure that women in America, and there are millions of women, that they have every advantage that men have, especially if they're at the head of the household, and especially if they're doing the same work a lot of times as men are doing. So that is a big factor for me. Also, another big factor is making sure that people that live with disabilities, and in America, there are 61 million people that have a disability, and that also covers cognitive disabilities. In Florida, where I'm running, there's 1.8 million people that have some type of disability, covering cognitive disabilities, and we want to make sure that we increase the amount of resources that people who are living with disabilities can get access to, because at the end of the day, we spend so much money on war, we spend so much money on defense, and not enough money on the health and well-being of our people. And as senator, I will definitely put a lot of emphasis towards health and well-being of the American people, and try to lead by example for the rest of the world to follow. So that's where I am. My campaign theme is really centered around improving the quality of life of American citizens.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. It is really important for us to not forget uh, mental health in these struggling times. Thank you so much for your comments and for your explaining your focus for your constituency and for your state and for your country. Now, we just went on Facebook Live, so any so for the audience who are watching this via Facebook Live, you can pose any questions there, or if you're with us on Zoom, you can pose questions in our chat function below. Thank you so much for our guests, Ellison and Honorable Yousuf alFakri, for being with us. Now, now I want to focus on instability, which could be a great cause for mental health issues and great focus through in legislation on mental health. I would like to move to Honorable Yousuf alFakri and ask him, sir, what kind of issues does stability cause in regards to legislation, specifically on mental health, and what kind of barriers do you experience? And the third part of that question, I know this is a long one, is what kind of plans do the government have in regards to focusing on mental health policy uh, in fixing stability in the country of Libya?
Actually, here in Libya, that we are facing a problem that the people here, they are not familiar with the mental health. You know that we have, after the Gaddafi regime in 2011, the government, the country has divided to 3 or 4 parts, and that caused it that we can't thinking as the one organization. That from my side, because I'm a member of parliament, we issued a lot of rules and a lot of regulations to solve this problem regarding mental health. But we don't have one government. We have 3 or 4 governments before. By the end of 2018, we have 2 governments, one in the west and the other one in the east. So with 2 governments, we can't apply our regulations without issues from the parliament. For the government or the plans of the government, you know that when you have 3 or 4 parallel government, you can't make any plans to be applied across the country, because and otherwise there's a fighting. The Libyan people, they are fighting each other for maybe 4 or 5 years. Now, maybe by the end of the beginning of this year, the fighting is stopping. But you know that when the fighting is stopped, now we are going to solve the problem what the fighting causing. And inshallah, by the next 3 or 4 weeks coming on, that we have one government, that we can say we can force the government to make plans to solve the problems regarding mental health.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to hear that there are steps being taken to make the country more stable and united, especially since Libya is my birthplace. So I'm very excited to hear about that. Thank you so much for joining us and for adding to that. Now, I would also like to ask, sir, what kind of barriers are you occurring in terms of education? As you mentioned, education is a massive issue in regards to mental health, as people are not focusing on it. So, what are some barriers and plans in regards to specifically education?
Yeah, this the main point. Really, in my side here in Libya, we have a lack of information regarding mental health. You know that in Libya we looking the mental health as is a new education. So you know that when you coming from with a new idea or a new thinking that we want to persuade the people to understanding or to apply it. You know that the mental health here in Libya it's a new issue. There are a lot of people they don't know about the mental health because of that. First of all, of the there is no one government to apply the regulations from the parliament, and the other thing there is no any institutes or schools. Uh, what can I say it in? You know that the people here they are not familiar with the mental health. When you talk about the mental health, they look at a new idea or new thing. That's what why the government there's no they are not find way to use it, their plans, and the people they are familiar with this plan.
Thank you so much. That is quite a long-term plan, and we really hope that proper steps are taken and that Libya unifies towards better legislation. Thank you so much, Honorable Yousuf Fakri, for your comments and for being with us this evening. Now, I'd like to swing back to you, uh, U.S. Senate candidate Ellison. Um, we hear a lot about the United States on the news, especially with the protests that are happening and the magnitude of division that has been growing in the United States. Now, us at Amnesty International, we really appreciate grassroots movements. What are your plans and ideas towards making sure everyone is heard when legislating on mental health?
One of the things that I like to do is I try to have a town hall discussion every single week. And the town hall moves from platform to platform. So on Fridays, we have town halls on Facebook. And then we go from Facebook to a Q&A session that lasts for hours on Twitter. This past week, we also moved it to Instagram. And the purpose of doing this is to allow people to be heard. Being heard is a very powerful tool in being able to help people to relieve stress. It also gives them an opportunity to play their part in the political process. And because people have been overlooked in the United States, disregarded, marginalized, it has created an idea in people that that people in government simply do not care. And so I care about whether or not people believe in their government, believe in their constitution, and believe in their leaders. So the reason I hold these town halls is to create an environment where people can have open, honest dialogue, kind of like what people would do when they're with their counselors or they're with their mental health professionals. It gives them a chance to be heard, and that starts the healing process in and of itself. And so, from a policy standpoint, I consider myself a progressive, but it's most progressives in the United States that are really pushing for there to be more awareness on mental health issues, especially with the mass shootings that are taking place. Just a few days ago, we had 8 Asian Americans be gunned down by someone who had poor mental health. We had a situation where there were 17 students at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School that were that were gunned down by someone with poor mental health. And on every single time that you look at these major crises in the United States, it always leads back to someone with mental health committing these atrocities on society. So it has been the progressives that have really been trying to push for legislation that has direct and positive impact on our society. I believe that it is policy and laws that pretty much govern and create the environment for society to live up to these standards that we create. So if we're going to write laws, we have to write laws that keep in mind that we have to look at people from a holistic perspective. You know, it's one thing to throw people in prison, but it's another to get the resources to people where they don't have to end up in a life that leads them to prison. And so as a progressive, I think that policy should do more to strengthen the families. I think that policy should do more to make sure that society is moving forward in a positive direction. And anytime I see policies that are going forward that really hurt families and move society backwards, I know that the result of that is going to be increased stress. And stress is at the foundation of all deaths, whether it's physical stress, whether it's mental stress, or whether it's cellular stress. And cellular stress basically is whenever your cells are lacking the oxygen and the electrolytes. And at that point, you're experiencing dehydration, and a dehydrated cell, which is also called osmotic stress, you could die from that. So we want to look at the whole picture, the whole person, and we want to put together policies that benefit everyone alike. And so, you know, that's my stance on that issue, and looking forward to this lively discussion around mental health.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's really important to make sure that these regular events occur and that nobody is overlooked. However, you are running in a Senate seat in Florida, which has a massive conservative population. Oh, there are many people in your state and perhaps even watching this now that may disagree with many of your policies. But in regards to mental health, what are your plans to reach out to them? And as you and as U.S. politics, people in U.S. politics call it um, stretching your hand out to the other side of the aisle. What are your plans and ideas to sort of reach out with those people that disagree with you?
Yeah, so I don't know if there is anybody that's going to completely agree 100% of the time, but I tell people this: there are 55,000 different issues in the United States. And out of those 55,000 different issues, I am pretty sure that if we have open, honest dialogue, eventually we are going to agree. I believe in building bridges. I don't believe in building walls, because the only man-made thing that you can see from the moon is the Great Wall of China. It took 100 years to build it. After it was complete, they found out that it didn't work because people can go over it or people can go under it. So I believe in building bridges, and the policies that I push, the platform issues that I push, are issues that affect everyone equally, like disabilities. If you get in a car accident today and you depend on disability benefits, then that car accident won't matter if you are a Democrat or a Republican or a liberal or a conservative. You will depend on the same system as everyone else. When you've worked 30 years, 40 years, and it's time for you to retire, you're going to need your Social Security benefits. It's not going to matter whether or not you're a Democrat or a Republican. And when Republicans, who are the opposition party to the Democratic Party, when they start to realize that the issues that really matter and the issues that directly impact their world are being perpetrated by members of their party, then it's just a matter of educating them to say, look, I know that you're in your party, but has your party really benefited you? And if they haven't, then maybe you can consider voting for someone who would actually work to benefit you and your interests. And so this is my message. This is what I tell them. And, the fact of the matter is that my campaign is filled with people from all walks of life. It's filled with people from across the state, across the country. And we have what we call a big tent. We welcome everybody because at the end of the day, I want to be able to represent the people and not my own interests. And that is a stark contrast between what we have now and what we can have. There are people that are in office right now that go into office to only represent their own agenda. And I tell people, this is not about me. This is about you. So when they ask me, Alan, what are your issues? I say, I have stances on issues. I say, but the real question is, what are your issues? How can I best represent your issues in the United States Senate? Because that's the real dynamic. And as a political scientist, I try to educate people to understand that I have an obligation to understand your issues, what's keeping you up at night, what stresses you out, and how I can best represent your interests in the United States Senate, not the other way around. And when people hear that message, they begin to get on board with what we're doing because we're building a movement. We want people to understand that they can have stronger, they can have better, and they can have more responsive representation because oftentimes people in the opposition party, they're not even returning phone calls, emails, or mail. And people are tired of it. And it's a global thing. People are tired of career politicians. They want people that understand what they're dealing with. They want people that's going to bring the solutions to the most pressing issues of our time. And career politicians haven't been able to do that yet.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ellison, for those remarks. It's really important for us to have these open discussions as we are doing now in order to reach out to everybody and represent them as best we can. Thank you so much. It really is important to have a team of everyone from every walk of life. I try to do that as well. Thank you so much for being here and for your comments. Just a reminder that we are on Facebook Live and this session is being recorded. I encourage any of you to ask any questions in our comment section on Facebook Live or our chat function on Zoom. Now, again, I'm looking here because I have a monitor. I'm not looking at my camera. I do apologize for that. Anyways, I would like to swing back to Honorable Yousuf alFakri for a couple of questions. With the division of the people and the governments, I would like to ask you the similar question I asked Yousuf alFakri because I asked Alan Ellison because it's really important to us that every person on the ground is heard. So, what is the Libyan government's plan to make sure that everyone is heard in writing any new laws on mental health?
As I told you that that we have two governments. The people from my side, I'm from the east. So in the east, that we have a health minister here, and we have a parliament in the east side, and also on the other side to the west, where is the capital, we have we have another government and another parliament. So the people which they are living between the two government and two parliament, they are they are not trusting anyone actually. So when we are talking about the mental health, they think about the electricity and they think about the how they can they get the bread. They think when we talk about planning of mental health, they told us we are talking about something is not important for us, and other things that they are not knowing about many things about the mental health, and this is the other point we are facing here in my side. The people here they have a lot information regarding the mental health. Before Gaddafi regime, the country actually the country is very rich, but the organizations regarding at the time of Gaddafi regime, they are not making a plans to facing the problem with the mental health. After Gaddafi regime, we know that there is a lot of people they are thinking about the mental health, especially the people who were abroad. like me. We are actually I'm not well abroad, but we have a lot of friends who are abroad. They talk about mental health, and they talk about the problems that are facing without solving the mental health. Actually, during the war at Iraq, you know that at Iraq we faced a lot of problems. You know, Iraq is one of the Arab countries, but these problems they are across all the Arabic countries. So the people who are coming to Libya after Gaddafi regime, they talk about this thing. But the point that after Gaddafi regime, we are facing a problem with the groups, they are fighting each other. And so we have 3 or 4 governments, and the people, they don't have a good information regarding the mental health. So when you talk about the plans, you know that when you talk about how to implement the plans, first of all, you have to preparing the people who will get these plans. So the people who are talking about, they are not care about the mental health. They think about the electricity, about how they can get the bed, and about the water. When talk about the mental health, they told us, you think it's not much important for us.
Well, yeah, a lot of these issues, such as electricity shortages, the rising prices on basic items, including bread, can cause a lot of issues, including one of the most crucial, mental issues. Now, in regards to making law and making change, what can the Libyan people expect within, let's say, 5 years' time?
Yeah, actually, it is my turn now. I have now, as a member of parliament, so we have a lot of rules and regulations regarding mental health. Now, maybe after 2 weeks coming on, we will have one government. You know that last month we started with the Libyan dialogue. We're analyzing a lot of things, and now we are going to energize one government. Maybe after 2 weeks, we will have, inshallah, one government. And with this one government that we can starting with implement of the plans of regarding to mental health.
That is amazing, and it looks like the Libyan people will finally have the help that they need shortly. Thank you so much, Honorable Yousuf alFakri. I would also like to ask, uh, since the Libyan government is unifying soon, um, what do you know if there are any joint unified Libyan policy towards mental health that they will discuss throughout the continent of Africa?
Yeah, this is the point. You know that I had a presentation regarding the mental health. I have sent it to Prof. Naguto. This presentation we talk about the policy of the mental health in Libya, especially in the west side, in the east side where I'm living in. So I have visiting a lot of hospitals in Benghazi. So we talk about the doctors there and the people who are familiar with the mental health. They told me that they have a lot of plans and a lot of strategic regarding the mental health, but because of the two government and the people, they are not familiar with the planning and with the strategy that they are preparing. So they're stopping everything until they have one government.
It looks like there are a lot of steps forward, and I wish you the best of luck in the country of Libya, the best of luck
Yes,
towards the steps ahead. Thank you
yes,
so much, Honorable
yes.
Yousuf alFakri, for answering my questions and for being here this evening. I'd like to remind everyone again, you may ask questions that can be answered live at the end of the session. Uh, we will start with the questions from the audience within about 20 to 25 minutes. Uh, Alan Ellison, I'm going to swing back to you now. Thank you so much for being here this evening. I know it's probably the afternoon where you are right now. Um, I would like to ask you, what can your constituents, if you do win the next election, what can your constituents expect within the first year of your first term in regards to mental health?
Uh, well, at the very least, they can expect to have someone that would be responsive to their needs, responsive to their communications. One of the things that I want to get working on right away is to make sure that the women in the United States are being treated fairly in terms of gender pay equality. We want to make sure that no one is being paid less for the equal work that someone else is being paid for. We want to make sure that we have enough votes in the United States Senate to push for the progressive issues of universal healthcare as well as universal basic income. Um, we are the only country in the world, really, out of the 33 developed nations that do not have these two things. And I believe that coming out of a COVID environment, Americans are going to need that because we have such great job loss due to the rise of tech giants as well as COVID-19. And a lot of these jobs will never come back. So we want to make sure that our people are healthy, but we also want to make sure that they are gainfully employed. And if there are no jobs to be had, then we want to do our part as officials to make sure that they're getting some type of wage subsidy. Maybe it be universal basic income or some other form, but we want to be able to make sure that people are safe and secure in their homes, safe and secure in their persons. And right now, it's not being done, but I believe that when I become a US Senator, we will have the necessary seats in the United States Senate to push the progressive agenda that we need. Right now, it's broken up 50-50. And when I become United States Senator, we will have the majority in the United States Senate. And as a party, we already have a very strong platform that will allow us to get most of our platform issues passed in the United States Senate.
Thank you so much, Ellen Ellison. It's those kind of programs like universal basic income has evidence to have helped people, especially in regards to mental health. But I would like to ask you, a lot of people can get scared when they hear that term because they often connect it with socialism and such issues like that. What could you do to address those fears?
Thank you very much for that question because I do hear that a lot in this country, particularly in Florida. But those terms, those labels, are labels that are used by the Republican Party to scare voters into voting for Republicans. There is no truth to it. The United States has the oldest written constitution in the world. Our government is intact in terms of the style of government that we have. We are not socialists. In fact, every citizen in the United States is being taxed. And because they're being taxed, it would be a trade-off. To be able to get benefits from your government after being taxed is not socialism. That is what you call a trade. So if you're being taxed, the reason why social programs are called entitlements is because you're entitled to it as a US citizen. And so what we want to do is we want to not only strengthen the programs that do exist, but me personally, I want to be able to look outside of the traditional realm of how we generate revenue in this country to be able to pay for things like UBI. Right now, tech giants are literally selling private data, personal data to other companies. It's not being taxed. I would definitely like to see there be a tax on private data that's sold, and maybe the revenue that was utilized or can be utilized from that can go towards a UBI, universal basic income, or universal healthcare system, or some other social program. But I definitely want to stay away from cutting programs to pay for other programs. And I want to stay away from taxing people to pay for these. I believe that there are various revenue programs that we can utilize to pay for these programs, and it wouldn't be socialism. Another way we can do it is we can increase the amount of public-private partnerships that exist. And by doing this, it strengthens businesses, but it also provides a new way of revenue for our government. And those revenues can be used to pay for UBI. So again, these are partnerships. We're not talking about socialism, we're talking about partnerships.
Thank you so much for that. That is quite a big issue facing United States politics right now. I would also like to ask you, some people may tell you that those kind of ideas are too ambitious. What would your response be towards that?
You know, if I wasn't ambitious, I wouldn't be running for United States Senate. In fact, if any of the senators were not ambitious, they would not be running for Senate. We want people with ambitious ideas. We want bold ideas because it's those ideas that that move society forward. And so, you know, change is inevitable. It's just a matter of when it's going to take place. And so, for people that might be afraid of ambitious ideas, then I help them to get to that point of acceptance by finding the creative ways to have these ideas without taking anything away from anyone. And I think that's the real issue. I think too oftentimes people are afraid to move forward because they fear that they may lose something. They either fear that they're going to lose another vital program because people want to cut programs to pay for new programs, or they feel they're going to have to pay more taxes in order to pay for a new program. And I've created ways that we can alleviate having to do with either one of those functions to be able to pay for some of this stuff. And so once they begin to see my platform and my policies and my plans and vision, I think they will be a lot more comfortable in moving forward. And that's going to be the key, is to get people very comfortable with change, get them comfortable with moving forward. And once they're comfortable, we won't have a problem.
In regards to health, nowadays we're receiving a lot of misinformation online. What are your ideas to tackle such struggles?
You know, the idea of misinformation, disinformation in the United States has become so pervasive. I believe in the idea of empowering individuals who are in the know to be able to amplify their voices. So our campaign, one of the things that we do to kind of overcome all of the disinformation is we teach our people to become publishers, to utilize their social media as news platforms. Because if you have a Twitter account, and if you have a Facebook account, an Instagram account, or a Twitter account, and you're using that account for just entertainment, you can turn right around and convert that account into distributions of information. And so what we try to do is we try to teach everyone that comes into our campaign to let them know that you become a very powerful tool to disseminate truth. And so we tell them to register with medium.com. It allows them to publish articles freely. We tell them to register with dailycost.com. That allows them to publish articles freely. We have a team of writers. We have a team of editors. So you don't have to be the best writer. You just have to be able to get your point of view across. And in doing so, we want to make sure that your work is at the best that it could be. So our team of editors can help you edit your writings and even help you expand upon your writings if you want to. But the point is to be able to teach people that we all have a responsibility to combat the lies and push forward the truth. I believe that light can always overcome darkness and truth can always overcome lies. But we have to make people understand that their voices are just as valuable as anyone else. And that when they become part of our team, then they become part of our amplification group that can help shine through all of the lies that we see in America. Like, for example, the misinformation on COVID-19. A lot of people, because of our previous president, felt that COVID-19 was a hoax. And every time they put information out like that or misinformation out like that, it begins to have a domino effect. People begin to buy into it. And so when they start buying into it, all of these other ideas start to surface, like it's a violation of civil rights, it's a violation of civil liberties. Well, this is the same argument that was in place 102 years ago when they had the Spanish pandemic flu, and people had these same arguments, and they took it to a level where they actually created the anti-mask league. And when they created the league and people stopped wearing masks, the pandemic evolved into the second and third phase, ultimately ended up killing 650,000 Americans out of the 50 million Americans that it infected. And it killed 50 million people out of the 500 million people worldwide that it infected. And so we have to make sure that people are being educated, not only about science, but also about history, because if you don't know history, you're subject to repeat it. And right now, because of the misinformation, we are seeing history being repeated from 102 years ago.
Yeah, history that isn't learned is subject to be repeated. That is a very, very great point. Thank you so much for also telling us about how we are responsible for what we post and for those links that could be very helpful for our audience. Thank you so much. Now, just one last question. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Honorable Yousuf alFakri from Libya. Uh, in 5 years' time, what can your constituents and the citizens of the United States expect from any sort of mental health legislation, of course, within the next 5 years?
I would see in 5 years, I would like to see, and I think that we can have this, where mental health programs such as psychology, psychiatry, mental health, substance abuse programs, all of these type of programs, I want to see that there be more programs in not only higher educations of institutions of higher education, but also at the grade school level, because I believe as soon as young people begin to understand mental health, then that means that they can also begin to understand coping mechanisms for mental health. And I think oftentimes the crimes that are committed in the United States are because people haven't been taught on how to cope with levels of stress and poor mental health. So I would like to see that take place and it become a more mainstream thing in the United States, but also at the policy level. I would like to see that there be a universal healthcare system that includes mental health coverage. I believe that we could probably have something like that as early as 2023. So that's just a couple of years from now. So by the time the 5-year period rolls around, America should be a lot more healthy mentally as well as physically.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alan Ellison, for joining us here this evening and for your great points. Now, for the final time, I'd like to swing back to Honorable Yousuf alFakri.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I'm hearing you.
Great.
Yeah,
Again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. If anyone has any questions, please pose them on our Facebook Live or in the chat function below. Now, sir, I understand that there is a lot to celebrate in Libya now that the country will soon be unified. What more will the government plan to do other than, of course, um education and awareness, as well as basic issues, solving basic issues like electricity and availability of food and medicine. Now, I'd like to ask you, uh, how about as Mr. Alan Ellison talked about universal health care, what are the Libya's plans in regards to adding mental health to primary health care and for assisting Libyans with the cost of mental health care?
yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah, as I told you before, that we have only now maybe 2 weeks coming on that we will have one government. And with the one government, we can talk about the planning. You know that when you talk about the planning, you have to be united government, and you don't have any separated of the rising across the country. Now, on the beginning of this month, we make a Libyan dialogue, and we're analyzing all things regarding to united the two government, and inshallah after 2 weeks we will have one government. You know that we are talk about the strategy and the plan. You have to have the tools to apply this strategy. Now we have one government, we have the tools to apply this strategy, and we can talk about the mental health, and we can talk about the advantage or the disadvantage regarding to the implement of the mental health strategy. In the Libya, the situation is different more than the other countries. In Libya, before during the Gaddafi regime, we don't have any strategy, or we didn't have any planning regarding to the mental health. After Gaddafi regime, we have people who living abroad. They are coming with these ideas, and they are starting to implement this idea in Libya. But because of the war, all of them are stopped. Now we are coming to make one government. Then we can talk about the mental health and talk about the plan and strategy of the government. You know that the minister health, which we are choosing for the one government or united government, is from Benghazi and from the east side. So this person, he one who is familiar with the stages of the war in the country. So, in my opinion, I think that this person, he will make a different situation regarding the mental health inside the country.
Thank you so much, Honorable Yousuf alFakri. I really hope with all my heart that mental health becomes a great priority in Libya, and that all Libyans can access it with a great affordability. Now, I'd like to ask you, as we're coming out of this COVID-19 issue, what are some important transitional things that uh, are going to be done towards focusing on mental health? Uh, this COVID-19 issue has impacted many people, especially mental health wise. What are some plans in regards to focusing on mental health, uh, especially with this COVID-19 issue?
Yeah, you know that here in Libya, regarding to COVID-19, we face a lot of problems here. One of the problems caused of two governments, and the other thing, the people here, they are not changing their habits regarding the to deal with the COVID-19. So in Libya, we have a lot of problems. You know that many of international organizations, they are leaving the country, and at the time that we need their support, so they leave the country fighting by itself, and you know that because of the two government, we lost a lot of people because of COVID-19, and you know that one of the reasons which
Absolutely. COVID-19 has caused issues across the entire spectrum in, sorry. So now
yes.
we have some questions, just one question from the audience towards Mr. Alan Ellison.
Yeah, I was just wondering if I was curious about how America deals with drug rehabilitation programs, and what America has to tackle this and what they can do as well to improve it.
Thank you so much for your question. From a governmental standpoint, when Obama was president, he put millions of dollars into the drug program. He had a drug czar. And when Donald Trump became president, he actually got rid of the drug czar position, as well as the funding that was there to help, especially with the opioid crisis. There are a lot of private institutions that help with substance misuse, and that's what we want to say in mental health. Instead of saying substance abuse, we say substance misuse, because we want to take away the stigma of people abusing. We want to say that they're misusing, because oftentimes people get into situations where they become victims of the substance, so that substance misuse. But a lot of times those programs are very expensive, and we need to be able to do more from the federal standpoint. And as I keep saying this, and that is, a lot of progressives are on the right side of history with this issue. So me being a progressive and working with my campaign manager, who's also in this space, what we want to be able to see is that there be more federal resources that are put towards substance misuse and mental health. Because when you think about where we are in this country with the level of stress, which oftentimes lead to an increased amount of substance misuse, increase of crime, increase of violence, then we have no choice but to do everything in our power to make sure that we are addressing some of these root issues. And the root issue for a lot of the things that are going on in the United States is poor mental health. And so we want to target those areas. We want to raise awareness on the issues. And the reason for raising awareness is because if you were to ask that question and try to get an individual member of the United States Senate to act on that question, usually they're not going to do much, because you're one individual. So the purpose of raising awareness on any issue, especially this issue, is to build a coalition of people that you can leverage the weight of those numbers with those that are in power, so that they can see that you're not coming along. They can see that you are coming with a large group of people who feel that this is an important issue. It's a shame that politicians can't look at the merit of an issue and try to push for the best possible scenario. Oftentimes they operate based on public sentiment. So that's what raising the awareness does. It gets public sentiment on your side about your issue. And so as a candidate running for federal office with a microphone that I've been given, I'm going to do all that I can to continue to raise the awareness, whether it be through town halls, through candid conversations like this, or through the use of social media, or even campaign literature, ads on television. But I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that people understand that we can and we need to do more on the issues of substance misuse and mental health.
Thank you so much for answering that question from our audience. Drug abuse issue, and Shahad says that is very interesting information to know. Thank you for your answer, Mr. Ellison. I also have one more question for you before we move to final remarks. There is a big issue with regards to the closure of mental health clinics in the United States, and that is sort of forcing police forces all over the country to answer to answer mental health issue calls, which can lead to many issues. There has been people with mental health issues because of the closure of these mental health clinics, forcing the police forces to answer calls on mental health issues, which they are not qualified for. What is your answer to this kind of this very extreme issue?
Yes, so two things. One is police officers do not have the necessary training to address issues of mental health. So I believe that we should focus a lot of our revenues on mental health practitioners, mental health professionals, social workers, and social programs to help get our society to a place where we can get people the help that they need. The other thing is, in the United States, whenever someone is calling because of a stress or a distressful situation, they dial 911. I want to push for a bill that we can create some type of system where there's a 511, and the 511 will dial directly to a healthcare worker or to a social worker or to a mental health worker, for them to come onto the scene to be able to deal with someone who is experiencing a mental health breakdown. Because oftentimes when law enforcement officers arrive, the situation usually does not turn out very good. And the last thing we need is for there to be any type of fatality because the officer wasn't trained properly or trained enough. And so, there is a call in the United States to defund the police. But that term, like the other term, socialism, it breaks down the communication between people on both sides of the aisle. A better way to look at it is just to reallocate funds to social programs, reallocate funds or prioritize funds to mental health care workers so that they can get people the help that they need. And I think the best way to do it is to have a new system in place that when someone sees someone acting in a way that they shouldn't be, rather than call 911, if they can at least recognize that the person is having some type of mental health breakdown, then they call 511. And I think over time, we will start to understand that not every case requires a law enforcement officer, and that it will just become part of our everyday thinking that some people are in need of just mental health help. And so, it's an issue that I'm going to be pushing. It's a possible bill that I'm going to try to get to become a law. And it will be a game changer, I believe.
Absolutely, that is quite a game changer, quite forward thinking. Thank you so much. A 511 number that could really change the game and hopefully save lives in the process. Thank you so much, Mr. Alan Ellison. Now I'm going to swing back to Honorable Yousuf alFakri for some final remarks. Any remarks that you'd like to make on legislation towards mental health and what people should expect from it. Honorable Yousuf alFakri, would you like to make any final remarks before we end this evening in regards to legislation on mental health and what people should expect from it?
Yeah, actually, first of all, I would like to thank you and all your staff to managing this webinar. And I hope that one day I will see the mental health declining in my side of the world. So you know that we are from the north side of the African country and also for the Middle Eastern side of the world. So you know that our people here, they are not familiar with the mental health, and that's why of my turning when I engaging with the advisory board of the mental health. That's why that's my turn to transfer all the ideas and all information regarding mental health to my people in Libya. So. I like that we will one day will find mental health. The people here they are familiar with the mental health, and we are we are starting with the planning for the mental health. The people with familiar and they are well capable with the strategies and the planning of the mental health.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, and I wish the country of Libya and the whole continent of Africa the best of luck on its uphill climb towards a mental health system. Thank you so much, Yousuf alFakri, for joining us this evening. I really appreciate that you have joined us, and I hope that this isn't the last time we can have a discussion on mental health. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Now, Mr. Ellison, I will give you a chance to make some final remarks as well on on this legislation on mental health and what the public should expect from it.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to this panel discussion. My name is Ellison. I'm running for the United States Senate out of the state of Florida. I believe that we should definitely have more conversations on mental health. I believe that we should raise the bar on what it means to be mentally healthy, especially coming out of COVID environment and coming out of 4 years of President Donald Trump. This country is in need of healing. This country is divided. And as you were saying earlier on the call, we do live in a very divided, diverse nation. And as a person who recognizes that we must unify, it is part of my campaign's approach to always speak in a way that that pulls people together. Our campaign theme is United for Florida. And oftentimes I talk about being united for America. A divided house cannot stand. We must unify, and we must unify on the issues where we can. I believe that we have more in common than not. I think that if we start focusing on everything that we have in common, we can move forward very easily. But I think when you focus on individual differences, it not only causes you to be divided, but it also adds a level of stress. And those levels of stress make it where people, it's hard to come back together. So let's move away from the noise, move away from the stress. Let's be a stress-free society by accepting one another, by looking at one another as brother and sister. That is my message. And I believe that we can go very far in our society by approaching life from that perspective. I think that if we start doing that, we will have even better mental health, especially because when you see one another as brother and sister, then that means that you're concerned about your brother and sister. So if someone's not having a good day, rather than disregard them, overlook them, you ask them, how can you be of service? And that's what we do on our campaign team. Anytime anyone is having any issues at all, everyone in our campaign team, and we have about 574 volunteers, but every one of them are taking on this tone, and we ask each other the important question, and that is, how can I help you today? What can I do to make your life easier? What can I do to make your life better? And so those are very important questions, because when a person hear that and they understand that you are sincere, it begins to dissolve the stress. It begins to make them feel better. And that's what we want. We want people to feel better as well as to be better. So I'm going to do my part from a policy position so that people can be better. But we need to do our part as leaders to help people to feel better and help them to feel united. Because united, we can accomplish so many things and we can go so far. I'm Ellison, and I approve this message.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ellison, for being with us this evening and for making those great points and for giving us a bit of hope for your state and for your nation. Thank you so much. There are quite a lot of words of approval in our chat function. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Very inspiring words from both of you, Honorable Yousuf alFakri and Mr. Ellison. I wish the best of luck to both of you, and I hope that I get to work with both of you again in the future. Thank you so much for taking your time to being with us here this evening. I have sent our email address in the chat function below. If any of you have any further questions, comments, or any concerns, please do let us know. If you have any ideas for projects or would like us to focus on a particular human rights issue or mental health issue, please do let us know. And if you haven't already gotten a ticket for our event next Friday, you can still do so. Thank you so much for all of you for being here this evening, and I hope I get to work with you again soon. I'm Zachary Abdulmumin from Amnesty International Middlesex University London, here with you all from London, United Kingdom, and I thank you all for being here this evening. Have a great night and goodbye.
Thank you all of you for being here.